because earlier in the week we did a longer run. Today it's just, I think, just adding to the total accumulated volume. And a little later today we'll do some jiu-jitsu, and that's it. I see some of these videos where it's like they're working out like all day long. Man, all you do is exercise today. It's incredible. We did this 80% workout yesterday, and we noticed it in the afternoon. Both of our heart rates were like jumping up way faster.
Yeah.
But it was cool because I think in the past there would be like shame of like, oh, we didn't get as far as we should. Or, you know, you wrestle with like, ah, is this enough? Is this as hard as I can go?
Yeah.
With a lot of these formats, it's like, yeah, that's it, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
We didn't.
can't do what you can't do,
We
you know?
didn't feel like we were really doing anything.
Right.
Like hard, and I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're creepers.
yeah.
It's like death bond, you know? It's like you start, it's like, I'm in such good shape.
Yeah.
It's like the easiest workout in the world.
And then it humbles
And
you.
it's just it's the accumulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's 2 short runs to maintain a heart rate, and then you do close sprints on the weekend.
Yeah, so we got a strength day, we got 2 AMA days where we're trying to basically build how powerful we can be for longer and longer durations. Because for this run, it's not a steady state, so it's going to be climbing. It's going to be little short bursts of higher heart rate, followed by like periods of like pretty short recovery. So we're doing that 2 times a week. We're building runs, so it's like this week was 50 minutes total, next week it'll be 60, and it's just like a progression that way.
Yeah. The sprints though, oh my gosh. You had to time how quickly you could get up in 7 seconds, walk down, recover for 40 seconds, and keep doing that. Over, over.
So you're done when you
Until
can't
you're-
maintain the 7. Like if you didn't hit the mark,
If you don't, yeah.
you're done.
That sounds like soccer practice.
I know, it felt, I was like, this is like sprints again.
I think that's a fascinating concept, right? Because there's like essential amino acids, essential fatty acids. There's no essential monosaccharides or polysaccharides. I think that can be misinterpreted as people to say, well, I guess we don't need carbs at all. It's like, well, the part that's left out of that is that there is no better source of energy than carbohydrates. So, you know, it's all like so contextual. If you've been abusing mono and polysaccharides, if you've been like gobbling up sugar left and right, and your activity level is not very high, man, significantly reducing something that's not essential to your liver function is probably like really smart. But man, if you're like training for something, and I think that I did this for a long, long time, I vilified carbohydrates. A couple of days ago, I'm like really into oatmeal, and you may think that sounds dumb, but for 15 years I haven't had oatmeal because I told myself that like just that, it's like, oh, you know what, like carbs are gonna make me fat, like too much of these is gonna make me sluggish. And it turns out that's not true. It turns out in the right amount, like it's a great thing to have. You know, like actually I feel fantastic. So much so that Scar was like, are we having oatmeal again? And I felt like it was some scene from Oliver Twist, you know, where it's like, could we have something besides gruel? But I think it's just because I've been so excited about it and I feel so good eating it in like the right amounts that I was like, well, surely it's what we were talking about the other day. It's like, well, whatever we eat, like we're probably just gonna have our kids eat it. There's probably a point where you can go overboard with that. You might be wondering why we're not just putting these bagels in the toaster, and it's because we have standards. We have standards around here. I've been told this is a very European way of toasting. But I would challenge that notion. It's like, so you tell me you're gonna put, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna put bread in the toaster, toasted, and then you're gonna scrape butter on it? Is that Is that how peasants do it? To me, this just makes a lot of sense right here. If anybody takes anything from this video, I hope it's that. And you know, the next thing I'm self-conscious about is like, whoa, man, that's a lot of butter. But there's only 2 rules in French cooking. The first is to make sure you use butter, and the second rule is to make sure you use a little bit more butter. So I've explained this to the girls because I think it's important that, you know, first of all, I don't know how they're gonna think of their dad when they get older. It's like, it could be, man, he was always tinkering and like experimenting with stuff, and that's awesome. Or you know, it could be like, oh, dad was never satisfied, so he was always like changing something. But for this run, we decided, man, it would be a lot easier to run a long distance if I'm at 210 versus at 220. So I'm actively in the process of losing about another 5 pounds. Therefore, I'm weighing and measuring my food, which I haven't done in a long time. And I wouldn't advocate that for years and years and years. But I think whenever there's a specific goal, such as changing body composition, I think when you're training for something in particular, especially endurance-based, that has the need for a certain amount of calories, it's great to get the phone back out, get the scale back out, and make sure that you're getting enough of, just like we talked about, carbohydrates, but also, you know, proteins and fats. My friends, the Chans, turned me on. I can't find my phone. Be right back. Or you can come with me. Anyways, my friend, the Chans, Matt and Cherie, made a little video that I just loved, where he was like breaking down what he's doing for the Leadville 100, which is like a long endurance-based bike race. And then some other friends, the Panos had mentioned the RP Diet app, and I don't have any connection or affiliation with them, but I'm constantly like looking at the different apps that are out there just to see, man, what would be great for our clients and those that we're helping out. And I've been really, really impressed with it. So I'm following that. I'm basically eating the exact same thing every day, but nutrition looks like basically 3 meals and a shake, because every day besides Sunday, I'm doing something that's pretty active, where it would make sense to have something that's a little easier to digest. Whoa! You know, weighing and measuring food can have, man, like a certain aroma to it. It's very easy to tell yourself like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, or it's so time consuming. I think that if you're traveling, if you're like never in the same environment, I could see it being like really challenging. But if you're at home, or if you can have some type of consistent meal, I feel like it's not really like that hard to pull off. So in real time, I'm basically adding these things that I'm gonna consume. This tells me what I should have all together. So it's like 785 grams of coconut water. If that's a little shy of that, then I just go in and basically take that down to whatever I have, compensate by a little bit more of the other stuff. I think that I made a little extra. I'm very concerned. I want to make sure that when I do any experimenting with nutrition, or even this, you know, it's like I've had to over communicate and over explain. Dad losing weight isn't because he doesn't love the way that he is right now. It's just like, hey, certain activities, certain adventures require different gear. Dad's gear needs to be a little lighter for a long distance run versus jujitsu, or, you know, surfing, or stuff where it's like body weight doesn't matter as much, because I'm very sensitive to, you know, modeling behavior where it would look like, oh man, Dad's not happy with himself. You know, so it's like I have to overdo the monologue that they get to hear to make sure they know, like, oh, it's not true. Like, I love myself. I love being 220. I love what I get to do, but it just makes sense that for this thing, we would do a little tinkering and experimenting. Both Kelly and I have a very competitive side, and usually it's us in cooperation with each other, but we're introducing all these different card games. So we've taught them Crazy Eights, golf, slapjack, which was great, and then spoons. And if you're not familiar with the game of spoons, we used to play it a lot, where there's one less spoon than people, And so you have 4 cards in your hands, and cards are constantly going around. It's pandemonium. It's total chaos. And it's so stimulating, you trying to get 4 of a kind with these 4 cards, and you're so consumed with passing the cards by that it's very easy to lose track of if somebody's grabbed a spoon. So if you have 4 of a kind, you grab a spoon, and then it's an elimination game.
But if you don't have 4 of a kind and you see someone does grab the spoon, you can grab it too. Mm-hmm. So it got down to...
We eliminated all of our kids last night. And it was just down to Kelly and I, and when we grabbed the spoon, it totally ripped my fingernail off and my hand started bleeding. And I think just in the spirit of the moment, I didn't handle it very well. Don't want to put words in your mouth, but you would say you didn't handle it very well. And so we had to apologize to our kids. No one won.
Oh, that's way better.
All right, so how long of the sauna?
Can you hear me? I'll try to talk a little louder. It's usually about 15 minutes, but we'll go off a heart rate. And so we'll typically stay in until our heart rate's close to 130 beats a minute. So basically we've entered into, zone 2 without doing anything. And I'll play little games where I'll see how many drops of sweat come off of my chin. So it's like, hey, 100 drops come off of my chin, it's probably time to get it out. But it's relative. Like in the summer, it could be a lot shorter. Sometimes if Kel's immediately done a workout, then she wouldn't be in here very long. Or sometimes if it's a really sweaty workout, wouldn't necessarily get in. But usually it's like 10, 15 minutes in the summer, maybe 15, 20 in the winter time. And then it's usually just a couple of minutes in the cold. Good question. The technology's gotten a little better since we had this. So there's some that are like heat tube, and they have like a remote thermostat on your phone. This one's like the original heater, so we think that it's about 180 degrees. But we plugged the holes up in the floor. There's a governor, like a little thermostat that you're supposed to put really high, that we put on the floor. So we've done a bunch of stuff to try to make it as hot as possible. So that's just a guess. But at some point, I think that like this stuff's so popular that so many people are talking about it. You can almost get lost in like the specific protocols, like, oh, it's got to be this temperature or this amount of. I think at some point, like, you'll know, just like most things, like there's an intuition. It's like, yeah, this is totally fine. Like, you've been in here long enough. Or it's like, yeah, today my heart rate's a little higher, a little sooner, so who cares that it's 8 minutes versus 15? And so at that point, does it really matter what temperature it is? I think the anchor is, well, what are you going to do that's going to allow you to do it like on a regular basis? And we did a mistake. Not because it's cool, we just like if sauna next year is not the popular trend for influencers, neither one of us will care. It's like we've decided we're gonna keep doing this for the rest of our lives. That's how the hot specifically, and just in the last year and a half we've added the cold. And I think that's a different kind of thing. Like the contrast specifically, even more so than just the cold, through a lot of trial and error, gives us, I think, some really improved recovery. It's also like a great buzz. You want to talk about good parenting, as soon as you get out of the cold plunge, you're the best parent of all time. Nothing that would bother you at 8 p.m. is going to make a lick of difference the second you get out of the freezer.
going to overflow.
Secret, girls, getting in the cold plunge is just to try to act really cool. Just to act like it's no big deal. Cold? Doesn't even bother me. Oh, cold plunge? Yeah, I've been doing this since the 90s. Get in an ice bath? Tell me something I don't know how to do. Right? I have a friend whose name will remain anonymous, who was very critical of the temperature of our cold plunge. It's set at 43, right now it's 47. And he claimed that he would get in there at sub 40 degree temperatures, only to find out that he was wearing gloves and socks. So my question to you, does that even count? Does it even count if you wear gloves in here? You think so? What's your opinion? Does it count? Hard to say. Might as well put a parka on in here, you know what I'm saying? So, once again, I think your body knows if it's cold. What do you think? Do you get in here? Do you think if anybody hears that, they're gonna call Child Protective Services on us? Next question, did we force you to get in here? No.
Do you jump in there?
She's been known. They'll like go all the way under. They'll like.
Do you go all the way under?
No. No. Excuse me.
Feels cold.
Yeah. The coolest part of this whole process is just wearing this towel right here. It's a brand called Nomadics. There's no affiliation here. There's no discount code for this brand. But this will be like if you're taking board shorts off after surfing.
Oh, cool.
So it's been great to hang our wet clothes out here and then just basically walk around naked with the towel. But it does feel like you just got out of the Pacific.
The way you're measuring your food like this, what's your goal? Are you trying to lose like a pound per week?
I'm going really slow, so like a half a pound. Because I think, one, I'm in no rush. Two, I think a big mistake that people often make is to think, well, I need to, half a pound a week is like a totally conservative amount of weight to lose. And so I've set 12 weeks as the goal, and I'm pretty much right on track. And so trying to keep the protein initially at what my body weight was, so 220, and then slowly like titrating that down to where I want my body weight to be, so grams in protein like getting closer to 210, which is what I think like an ideal weight would be. So it's always nice every once in a while to like recalibrate and be like, oh man, maybe I don't need like that 20-ounce ribeye. Maybe this is totally sufficient. And I think with a little bit more carbohydrates in the right amount, I have a tendency to overeat protein anyways. So it's been nice to just have a little bit of accountability as far as, hey, this is totally enough and I'm adding everything up. Alyssa, who I worked with, said this, and I thought it was great, that she finds it comforting to weigh and measure, because once she does that, like, she doesn't have to worry if she's had enough to eat. So I'm sure there's a personality type where introducing that level of mathematics could be a stressor, but I'm appreciating that for some, adding that precision is a way to actually decrease anxiety around food, which is cool to see from a different perspective.
I don't have anything planned. Well, what's your morning? It's like, I'm just gonna get up and like drink. That's all I got planned so far, is just like drink coffee. Even saying that, I feel like, oh, you're so irresponsible. Like you're so. It's like having margin, having space is the most rebellious thing that you can do as a busy adult. And just what looks like to somebody else wasting time is maybe the most luxurious thing that someone could participate in. I was reading it's called The Happier Hour, and I can't remember the lady's name, but the concept was, just the theory is, hey, when you're on vacation, you're not trying to maximize every second. It's established that that's okay. But when we're here, it's like this compulsion that every second of the day needs to be on track doing something, because by the end of my day I need to know that I did everything I could to maximize the time. It's like, that may be true. That's a terrible way to like live your life, especially if from a personality standpoint that's not how you get off, right? Especially if like that's not, because I have some coworkers and friends where it's like, man, they really find satisfaction. I would say they even find deep joy. And I respect that and I marvel at it. But I think for me, it does the opposite. It creates this deep, very low vibration, like anxiety. And so a lot of this stuff, even though today's a little bit of an exaggeration, it is like fighting against that tendency to always have to be doing something.
Like feel productive.
Yeah. There are probably not going to be any books that are written about that. But it's like, what's that book called? Stop Doing Stuff.
Stop doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
Sai de casa, continua com essa enrolação. Já cansei de chamar pra tu sair de casa, mas você só continua com essa enrolação. Continua entendendo papá e continua com essa enrolação. Já cansei de chamar papá, mas você só continua com essa enrolação.
What's going on?
Thanks for watching. Part 2 coming. We'll do it at the gym at DPR. It'll be the Knicks family in this episode, and then the DPR family in the next one. Do I need to have like some inspirational quote? Is that what people do in these videos?
Okay.
Shoot for the moon. If you miss, at least you'll land among the stars.
Subscribe!